Over the years, I have learned to respect wisdom and revere it and understand that it is through wisdom that we are able to build and sustain quality lifestyles and to steer clear of foolishness, even in times when you may not have been saved and doing things you were not supposed to do. There still should be that fundamental understanding. You know how when you don't want to do right, you go to certain people, but then we have those people who be considered to be wise. And when we want the truth and when we're ready to do right, when we want to build, those are the people that we go to. And we want to be that person, that wise person who people can build with, that foundational kind of person who we can trust. And that is definitely characteristic of God's righteousness. We will possess wisdom and we will be able to do something and be progressive and do things that we can sustain and add value. As always, it is such a pleasure to present the Sanctuary Sunday School for the Sanctuary Academy. Again, my studio is still closed, and so here on out, I'm going to be doing the lesson just in my office without the green screen. But I do want you to make sure that you are, first of all, subscribed, but also click that join button and join the channel because we are producing so much content. I have an amazing team, and I don't want you to miss any of it. So click that join button, see what we have to offer in terms of membership. This week's subject is Feast with Wisdom. And again, we kind of started it last week, but we see this week, we see personification. And me being a writer, that's one of my favorite literary tools where wisdom is styled as a woman. And it talks about wisdom and this banquet. And I love the way that it does this because I think that personification is a very effective tool in understanding a concept and applying it to our human faculty. So when you talk about wisdom hath builded her house, and this is where we see preparation. And I am, this is me right here, all up in here, because I believe in preparing. And I think that it is a very wise thing to, well, I don't think the Bible is showing us that someone who is wise prepares. And it says build the house, and you have seven pillars. And when you speak of a pillar, that's what holds the house up. So when the house has seven pillars, that's an indicator that this house is sturdy, that it is strong, it's viable, and it's a safe place to dwell in. And then it says she killed the beast. Now we again making it safe, and mingled the wine, finished the table, furnished the table. So she not only, it's twofold here. Not only do we have a sound structure, now we are furnishing it. So now it's sound, but it also has all of the furnishings that we need, And so now the house is ready to be inhabited, and we're also ready to have guests. So we're talking about this feast. And when you think about the Bible times, even still today, a feast, a celebration in your home is a huge deal. And I know the way I was brought up, if somebody is coming into your home, everything has to be perfect, even down to the food. My mom taught me, make sure that your food is pretty, make sure that everything is presentable. So she said she sent out the maids and started to invite people, and she planned everything, come and eat, come and drink, and all of these things in the home. And again, when you have this you've prepared and you invite people into your home, that is something for me. My home is sacred. So when you invite someone into your home, this is a huge thing. It's something that's very significant. And we're talking about wisdom and what wisdom is and what wisdom does. And then she talks about her maids. And also it says for the people who are simple, right? You can't come. You know, we're gonna turn you away. You can't come. Okay? But if you want understanding, okay, then you can come. And that verse right there was very critical for me because it's okay to make that determination. Sometimes as people of God, people will do that to you. Well, you're supposed to be saved. Did you not know that you have the authority to tell people okay, if you're going to be foolish, if you don't want to do right, then you need to go. But when you're ready to come, you can come in, and you want to be that person where people understand that you have this wisdom. And as I talked about before, people know when they want to do right, they go to wise people. When they want to do something that's foolish, they go to somebody that they know is going to condone what they're doing. So there was a certain level of discernment here on who was allowed into the house, and that was very, very important. And then it talks about giving instruction to a wise man, because, and this is very, very key. When you give instruction to somebody who is wise, they will take it, they will listen, they will grow from it. When you give instruction to somebody who is foolish, they will be angry. They will not accept it because they are not trying to do the things that they are supposed to do. So those are things we're talking about, giving instruction and the fear. And this is a very popular verse. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the holy is understanding. The fear of the Lord, reverence him, respect him, is the beginning of wisdom. And we live in a time where so many people are irreverent when it comes to God, will say or do anything. And sometimes our mind immediately goes to the world, right? The world is doing all of this stuff, they're doing all of that, and they're disrespectful to God. But we don't have to go to the world. We can go right in church. There are things, I may have said this before. My mom used to tell me that if you act up in the house of God, he will slap your face one side. That's how I was raised, and I believed it. And I think I just hit my mic, but that's okay. I believed it, and to this day, I will not act up or do anything unseemly in the house of God. I can remember even times when I was not saved. When it came to when I was in church, I was not going, I would never do anything to disrespect or dishonor the house of God. I understood that to be a sacred place. And this is talking about being wisdom, having wisdom, and respecting God. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. That's where it starts. And it talks about the knowledge of the holy. The knowledge of the holy is understanding. And again, we've been talking about this for a couple of weeks. And wisdom and holiness and righteousness go hand in hand. You can't have it without the other. And that goes back to the beginning when she was saying, what the passage was saying, that if you're simple, you need to not come. But if you're ready, then you can come. That goes back to that. And sometimes we have people, and they may not be unrighteous. Well, if they don't have the righteousness, they don't have the wisdom of God. And we've got to be very careful how we intermingle with unrighteousness. Now, I'm not saying that you live in an environment where you can't talk to anybody who's not saved. That's not true. But you've got to be careful who you take counsel with, who you take advice from, who you allow to train you. You need to make sure that that is godly, because this wisdom that you need comes from God in order for you to have this walk. And then it goes on to talk about a foolish woman. Look at these words: clamorous, simple, knows nothing. And these are some really strong words to use. And it says specifically a foolish woman, and we definitely don't want to fall in that category. We have to embrace the wisdom of God, because foolishness will only lead to calamity. God does not deal in foolishness. When we do things that are foolish, you cut off your connection. God is not going to go with you. And even when I'm teaching people, sometimes we try to make, and this is the goal, which I'm going here, is to be saved. When we're teaching salvation, sometimes, and they used to try to make it seem like this deep, mysterious, hard thing to be saved. And I tell people fundamentally, make up your mind that you are not going to do what you know is wrong. And then you seek the Lord, and you ask him to continue to lead you and guide you and direct you in the ways of righteousness and salvation. It's not some crazy mystical thing that you have to go through. The Spirit of God is right there waiting for you. Jesus died for us, and he left it there for us. And at the end of the day, that's all that really matters, is being saved. And that's how you obtain the wisdom of God. So it talks about here the foolish woman, and she sitteth at the door of the house on a seat in the high places of the city. And it's a parallelism where the foolish woman mimics the wise woman, but it's not real. And this really spoke to me. Listen to this. Stolen waters are sweet, and bread eaten in secret is pleasant, but he knoweth not that the dead are there, and that her guests are in the depths of hell. And I say this all the time. You'll hear me say that it's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. Temporary pleasures, iniquities, doing things that we shouldn't do, hiding, and even with social media, so many church people say that social media is bad. Social media is not bad. The people who get in trouble on social media, they got in trouble with the telephone. They hiding and doing stuff in secret. You're sneaking in on the phone. You're sneaking in. You texting, and you're sneaking in somebody's inbox. You're sneaking to somebody's house. We can't do that. There is no place for that. And like the word says, so the proverb says, yeah, it may be sweet, but it ends in death. And it's just not worth it. It's very unwise. And we cannot allow the enemy to make us do foolish things that cause us to separate from the wisdom of God. These proverbs, these lessons about wisdom have been so timely because the wisdom of God that comes from the Word of God and comes from God's righteousness is what is going to carry us, especially in a day where you have laws that are unjust. You have, Paul picked it up, principalities and spiritual wickedness in high places. So the only way that we're going to be able to stand is to have the wisdom of God. And just, I usually don't do this, but I encourage you to read the whole book of Proverbs. I said a couple weeks ago, every verse is a lesson. And we're living in a time where we really need wisdom. I typically don't do a verse by verse exposition because it's there. I like to really talk about it in a way to apply it to your life. I try to present these lessons in a way where it applies to what is going on with you in your everyday life, because for me, the word is a roadmap. So this wisdom is just good and it's sweet to me, and it's a beautiful reminder of where our victory comes from, where our deliverance comes from, and how we're able to fly above all of the foolishness that's happening in the world by simply embracing and feasting with God's wisdom.